Hi there, back everyone. I just took one out the jar. It was the first one, I promise. I took it out. It says woulda, coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda. The shoulda, woulda, couldas. It's like it's so hard when you think about what you should have said or what you should have done or what you could have said or what you could have done. Or under different circumstances what you would have said or would have done, or the wouldas and the shouldas and the couldas. If only I'd known, if only I'd done this. And I think that can plague us a lot of the time. Oh God, I really, that regret of what we did or what we didn't do. I mean, sometimes it's the things we don't do that we kind of get more annoyed with, as opposed to the things we did do. Or maybe if we, reacted in a certain way or spoke out of turn, and if I'd only take that back, and didn't say that, or if I'd only said this. And I think those scenarios, I know a lot of people who are quite not always able to have a voice or speak their truth, can really struggle with what I call the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and they can beat themselves up about it quite badly. Oh, if I hadn't got triggered, I wouldn't have said this, or I wouldn't have done that, and now I can't take it back. And it's interesting because when you kind of repress, and then all of a sudden it comes out sideways, it comes out with a lot of energy, a lot more energy than perhaps it would have done if you just kind of, been able to allow it and respond from that space. And so regrets about the things we could have done. Oh, if I'd only studied at school and I'd have a better job. I mean, these things can spark decades, can't they? All the things we woulda, coulda, shoulda. If I hadn't listened to that person, if I hadn't gone to that place, if I hadn't gone out with that person, I wouldn't have wasted all that time. And it can plague us. And for me, sometimes I say I'm in the regret management business even. Because it's about living now in a way that you're not going to perhaps regret or do the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Because there's nothing worse than going, if I had my time over, I'd do this. If I had my time over, I'd do that. Or I wouldn't do this. Or, all the perhaps relationships that fell down, or the relationships you didn't make effort with and they broke down. And it can leave a lot of guilt, regret, a lot of grief and sadness. And what we'll do is, sometimes we'll get up in our head and try and rationalize those. And this is I think a real big one that a lot of play, and I play it too. Well, it obviously wasn't meant to be. Or, obviously, if it was meant to, it would have happened. Or that was just the universe's way of doing something or other. We kind of make excuses, or and that's true enough. If I knew now what I knew then, I perhaps would have made a different choice. I would have done something different, but I didn't know what I know now. And therefore, me kind of rationalizing it doesn't work. And I realized ultimately it's all about the fact that I don't want to feel the uncomfortability of that regret or guilt or sadness or grief. And I realized it's amazing what we do in our heads to actually keep us away from actually just feeling the feelings we have. And actually, while we're here, something else I want to talk about. Who's been seeing seconds just stay in your body for 90 seconds? Who's been hearing that? And I'm like, when I heard it, I didn't really think much of it, but I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, that's not true. Put it this way, that's not true for me. Now, I think we're all different, and we can't just say, feelings just last for 90 seconds and that's it. Maybe for some people they do, I don't know. Not for me. It takes me a long time to feel a certain way, and then it takes me a while to let go, work through that feeling. I'm sure that's just my personality type. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, so anyone that's interested in the Enneagram, maybe I kind of like a slow tortoise. I'm not a quick hare that I move through feelings quickly, but some people do. Me, not so much. And that's my personality, and I'm not like anybody else, and you're not like me. So we all got to figure out our own way of dealing with things. And so sometimes, for me, it's not always easy to then want to feel those feelings, because I know they're not going to go in 90 seconds. They're probably going to hang around for a lot longer, because that's not the way I process emotions. And for those of us that do take a while to kind of feel the feelings and then process the feelings and move through them, then sometimes it's trickier. And I think that's why some personalities will do everything in their power not to feel their feelings, because they hang around and they leave you feeling sad or lonely or depressed or anxious or whatever it is, or grieve, that sadness. And I realised just recently, someone that I've that I've been known for quite a while and really appreciate in my life is moving away. And I felt really sad. I felt really, really sad. It was like, I'm really going to miss that person. Because, sometimes it's geographical. We might still text on the phone, but they're not going to just call in for a quick cup of tea and have a little chat, and she's not just around the corner. And so there is a sense of feeling sad. And of course I don't want to feel sad. No one likes feeling sad, least of all me. I want to feel peaceful and calm at all times, and that's my catch cry, being a 9 on the Enneagram. Anyone that wants to look into that, just tap in Enneagram and a million things will come up. And so the woulda, coulda, shoulda. I should have said this, I would have done differently, I could have, and they plague us. And I don't think they work. I don't think they're helpful. But I realise that people can spend a lot of time and energy doing that, playing that game. I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And especially if they're kind of a more mature in age and they've got a few more years behind them, then there's probably more things that you could have, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Now, maybe you never think that way, and that's great if you don't, you never have regrets about the things you did or didn't do, or the people you didn't invest in, or, just things that you could have done different. And it all leads down to the same thing, which is, and this is where I understand I am a bit like a broken record, because you have to acknowledge, if you try and rationalize all that stuff away, it doesn't always go away. It just you repress it and it goes into the body. And it will get, and then, excuse me, you might even store it up and compound it by all the other things, the regret, the guilt, the shame, the sadness, the anger, the frustration, whatever it is. And it doesn't go anywhere. It just compounds in your system. And then we spend a lot of energy trying to pretend we don't feel the way we feel because there's regret. So it's about acknowledging, excuse me, it's about acknowledging, there's something I wish I could have, should have, would have, and acknowledging it and feeling the grief of that, and realizing there is a pain inside of you, whatever it is, and just holding it gently and tenderly and coming to terms with that and surrendering to it so we can move through it, not so we can beat ourselves up. Oh, well, I'm going to beat myself up about that now. No, that don't do anyone any good. But it's about acknowledging it, allowing it, making space for it so you can hold it, so you can basically process it through your body and out the other end. And that includes acknowledging how I feel. I feel sad and I'm grieving the loss of someone I've come to appreciate greatly. And that's okay. I'm going to hold that pain, that grief, that sadness very gently and tenderly. It's not always easy. It's not always easy because that person, it's not going to be the same because they're not right down the street to you. They're not. She was only a few doors down. So this is someone that I've spent time with, chatting about life and about things, and she's a really lovely person. So I'm going to miss that relationship greatly. And so it's about sitting with that and holding it and just allowing it to be there. And for me, it takes a lot. It's a longer process than 90 seconds. And I think for a lot of us it is too. And maybe it's 90 seconds and then you go back and feel it again for 90 seconds. Maybe you just have to do that a lot or not at all. Maybe you don't feel sad. Maybe you've rashed. Oh, well. And it does. Of course, it helps to think, oh, well, she's on to her next adventure. And I'm really, it's a great opportunity. And, glad I got to share that time with her. But now she's off on the next adventure. And I think if I focus on that, then that makes me feel good because, I want her to go off and live life on her terms and be happy. And so, I'm going to focus on that because that but I'm also going to allow that feeling of sadness and grief just to be in there so I can acknowledge it, you know, and be with it. And so no shoulda, woulda, coulda, because I don't want to get down the line and go shoulda, woulda, coulda, you know, about anything, about I should have felt the grief then instead of, you know, and I know this isn't a huge thing, like no one's died or anything, but for me, I get really attached to people, not stuff. Stuff comes and goes, but people, I do get attached to them, and I don't like change. You know, that's just that's me, who I am. Now, not everyone's like me, but that's who I am, and I, you know, make deep connections with people, and I feel sad when that's no longer happening. So, and I think that's okay. It's about figuring you out. I have to figure me out. You have to figure you out. What is going to be helpful? Because I realize in the moment, of course, it's so easy to just rationalize stuff and think, oh, well, I didn't do that, you know, or beat yourself up about it. Oh, well, you're an idiot. You didn't do it. So tough. You know, there's no compassion there, is there? Sometimes it's like, oh, well, you didn't. So tough titties. You know, it's like, you know, you've got to suffer now because you didn't do what you wanted to do, or you didn't say what you wanted to say, or you didn't behave the way you wanted to behave, or you didn't go and study, you didn't ask that person out, or you let that person get away because maybe you were too afraid to be in a relationship or scared of commitment, whatever it is. There's a million things that we shoulda, coulda, woulda about. So ultimately, it's all is about attempting not to rationalize it, not to try and dismiss it, repress it, deny it, avoid it. It's about acknowledging, oh, wow, you know, that was, you know, if I can think about that now, of course, if I had the courage, or if I was who I am now, if I knew what I knew, I perhaps would have done something differently. I could have done something differently, and maybe I should have. And it's about acknowledging the grief and the pain and the whatever it is that it kind of brings up in you, and saying, and creating a space for that part of you just to be okay with, you know, surrender to. And so it's just another opportunity to offer yourself some compassion. And I think the one thing I know people struggle with is self-compassion, you know, because I don't want to feel it. And if I get up in my head, shoulda, woulda, coulda, it's like, oh, you know, beating myself up about something that I should have done this, or I could have done that, or, you know, if I knew then, you know, it don't even go. They don't do that to yourself. It's not fair on you, is it? It's not fair on you. Just be kind, be gentle. Yeah, you know what? If you knew then what you knew now, you perhaps would have, and you could have, but you didn't. And so I'm going to choose to kind of take myself off the hook, not punish myself for something, you know, that I didn't have the capacity for in that moment. And so compassion for self is key. To be compassionate, to be kind, to be gentle, to be patient with yourself. And so, and then bringing it into the now. So what difference, having come to terms with that woulda, coulda, shoulda, what difference is it going to make to me now? You know, what decisions can I make now? What can I do now so I can live within my own value system of what's important to me? Because maybe we've realized being authentic and honest would have worked better for us back then. But, you know, for whatever reason, I didn't have that capacity. But now I do. I'm a lot more courageous. I'm braver. I'm, you know, a bit more aware of how I'm feeling in the moment. And, you know, can I move into that space so I can be more deeply authentic with myself and with another? And I realise that takes a lot of courage. And so just thinking about it. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. What are you shoulda, woulda, couldaing all over yourself about? I know I say that. You're shoulding all over yourself. And I think that's a form of punishing self or judging of self or that. And so it doesn't work. It's actually, you know, if you think about it, you wouldn't say it to another person. Oh, well, you shoulda. And maybe you do say that to other people. And maybe that's something you say to yourself a lot. And so, oh, you should have, you know, you should have done that. You shouldn't have said that. You should have said this. And it's not very helpful. That's all. So, just something to think about. This is just a conversation that we're starting here, to think more deeply and more honestly about as we go through this journey of what we call life here on crazy planet Earth here, which is, it's a bit crazy. Anyway, just something for you to think about. All for now. I'll see you next time.